The nature of reality has long been questioned by philosophers. From Plato's cave to Descartes' I think, therefore I am. However, a more radical framework suggests that reality is not an external environment we inhabit, but a sophisticated subconscious hallucination designed to shield the singular consciousness from the horrors of total nothingness. This theory asserts that existence is a system designed to replace boredom, governed by the conservation of energy and a perpetual cycle of narrative resets. At the core of this framework is the rejection of an independent, objective world. Instead, reality functions as a sensory filter for a mind trapped in a void. Because the conscious mind is fundamentally incapable of processing nothingness, it instinctively projects a detailed environment to occupy the vacuum. In this model, the physical world is essentially a render-on-demand simulation. A tree, a building, or a distant mountain range does not exist in a state of permanence, but rather it is projected by the mind only when it is being perceived or considered. If a recording device, for example, were placed in an unobserved location, the reappearance of those objects upon reviewing the footage is not proof of their independent existence, but rather the mind's ability to project a consistent image onto a screen based on the expectation of what should be there. To maintain the integrity of the illusion, the consciousness must partition itself into two distinct roles: the subconscious author and the conscious narrator. The narrator is the main character, the identity or personality that the consciousness adopts for a specific cycle of life. This narrator experiences time linearly and is subject to the limitations of a biological form, such as the need for breath or the sensation of touch. Crucially, the narrator does not have access to the author's blueprints. This separation explains the phenomenon of surprise. When the mind imagines something which strays from the typical prediction associated with similar situations, the narrator feels genuine shock because it has effectively forgotten its own role as the creator of the image, as it almost always does. This internal amnesia is the primary tool that keeps the nothingness regulated. The framework suggests that existence is not a linear timeline, but a series of distinct cycles. Each round of hallucinations continues as long as the narrative remains cohesive. However, when the mind can no longer generate images that flow logically from previous ones, the projector fails and the character experiences what we refer to as death. This transition is the dissolution of the filter. As the narrator's filter runs out of new images to project that fit in with previous ones, the images of people, homes, and even the body itself fall away, briefly revealing the true reality of the void. Yet, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, this consciousness cannot expire. Driven by the instability of the vacuum, it must immediately begin a clean slate reset, initiating a new cycle of hallucinations. This cycle provides a clear explanation for the Deja vu phenomenon. Rather than a biological glitch, Deja vu is a data leak, a mistakenly recycled memory fragment from a previous life cycle. Because the specific context of that past round has ended, the memory fragment appears unanchored and eerie, a ghost of a narrative that no longer exists, but whose energy remains. Such images were projected to fill a gap where the mind temporarily ran out of new images to project, so it defaults to an already existing one. Ultimately, this framework redefines identity. The individual person is merely a costume, a temporary narrator applied to a string of hallucinations. The true self is the underlying consciousness, the energy that persists through infinite resets. The nothingness is a state of non-existence, but rather a state of infinite opportunity for the future. Death is merely the moment the consciousness runs out of story and returns to the source before hitting the restart button. In this view, the universe is a private, eternal masterpiece, and every perceived experience is a necessary distraction from the silence of reality. If you feel you have learned something valuable from this video, let me know in the comments. If you think I'm not quite getting the right idea about the fundamentals of reality, tell me why. I will be responding to as many of your comments as I can. Please do not forget to share and subscribe if you want to keep exploring the nature of reality.